My beloved child. Stop scrolling, because what you are about to hear was not an accident. Out of all the voices calling for your attention in this moment, somehow your spirit was drawn here. That was not random. Something inside you already knew there was a message waiting, something your heart has been trying to hear, even when your mind was too tired to ask for it. Pause here for a moment. Breathe. Because heaven has been watching the silent battle unfolding around your heart. And around the heart of the one your soul recognizes, even if your eyes have not yet fully understood what your spirit has known all along. Your soulmate is standing at a crossroads. Not a small crossroads. Not a simple decision. Not the kind of choice people make lightly and forget by morning. No. This is the kind of decision that changes timelines. This is the kind of moment where one choice opens a door to destiny, and another closes it for years. And they know it. That is why they have been restless. That is why something has felt different. That is why the energy between you has shifted in ways you could not explain. You felt it, didn't you? You tried to ignore it. You told yourself maybe you were imagining it. Maybe it was your own emotions. Maybe it was your own longing creating signs where none existed. But deep inside, your spirit kept whispering, something is happening. And it was right. Because while you were wondering what changed, they were wrestling with a truth they can no longer avoid. A truth about you. A truth about what you mean to them. A truth about what your connection demands from them. And that truth has become impossible to silence. My beloved child. They love you more deeply than they have admitted. Even to themselves. Especially to themselves. For a long time they tried to name what they felt for you with smaller words. Attraction. Curiosity. Comfort. Chemistry. Timing. Coincidence. But every label failed. Because what they feel is larger than language. You entered their life, and something ancient inside them woke up. Something they thought had died years ago. Hope. Not ordinary hope. The terrifying kind. The kind that asks a wounded heart to believe again. The kind that dares someone to imagine forever after surviving disappointment. The kind that makes walls tremble. And that terrified them. Because before you, they had learned how to survive without trusting love. They had built careful defenses. Invisible walls. Hidden exits. Emergency plans. Emotional armor. They became skilled at distance. Skilled at appearing available while remaining unreachable. Skilled at saying just enough to keep people near, but never enough to let anyone truly enter. And then you arrived. You were never supposed to matter this much. That was their original plan. Maybe they told themselves this would stay light. Simple. Temporary. But your soul refused to stay on the surface. Without trying, without forcing, without demanding. You began reaching places inside them they had sealed shut. Places even they avoided. Old grief. Old fear. Old betrayal. Old shame. And now they stand before a terrifying realization. To move toward you fully, they must become someone more honest than they have ever been. Not just with you. With themselves. That is the choice. That is the mountain before them. And they are afraid. Not because they do not want you, but because they do. Do you understand the difference? People often mistake hesitation for lack of love. But sometimes hesitation is love standing at the edge of transformation. Sometimes the person delays not because they feel too little, but because they feel too much. Your soulmate feels too much. Too much vulnerability. Too much possibility. Too much risk. Too much truth. And now heaven is pressing on them. There are moments recently when they have felt strangely emotional for no obvious reason. Songs hit differently. Memories arrive uninvited. Your name appears in their thoughts at random hours. Your laughter echoes in silence. Your absence becomes louder than noise. They try to distract themselves. Work. Friends. Sleep. Scrolling. Busyness. But still. You return. Again. And again. And again. Not because they are obsessed. Because they are being awakened. My beloved child, something spiritual is happening behind what appears emotional. Your connection was never merely romantic. It is catalytic. You came into each other's lives to trigger change. That is why it feels heavier than ordinary affection. That is why distance has never truly disconnected you. That is why even silence speaks. There are cords between souls that cannot be cut by time. And yours is one of them. But hear me carefully. A soulmate connection does not remove free will. This is where many misunderstand destiny. People think if two souls are meant for each other, everything should be easy. No resistance. No delay. No confusion. But that is not how soul work happens. A soulmate does not come merely to comfort you. They come to transform you. And transformation is rarely comfortable. Your soulmate is facing a difficult choice because being with you means letting go of something they have carried for years. Something old. Something heavy. Something familiar. It may be a past relationship they never emotionally buried. It may be a family expectation they have obeyed too long. It may be fear disguised as logic. It may be a version of themselves they built to survive pain. Whatever it is, it cannot come where you are going. That is the choice. They cannot carry both. They cannot hold the old life in one hand and your future in the other forever. Soon, they must release something. And they know it. That is what has been exhausting them. That is why their energy feels split. Part of them reaches toward you. Part of them clings backward. 1 foot in yesterday. 1 foot in destiny. No wonder they feel unstable. But listen closely. Heaven has begun closing exits. What they once used to escape is no longer satisfying. Old distractions feel empty. Old habits feel hollow. Old connections feel thinner. What used to numb them now irritates them. Why? Because awakening ruins old comforts. Once the soul knows truth, it cannot fully enjoy illusion. Your soulmate now knows the truth. You matter. You matter in a way they did not plan. You matter in a way that changed their internal world. And that knowledge has become unavoidable. At night, They think about what life would look like if they chose you fully. Can you imagine that? They have imagined mornings with you, conversations with you, healing with you, building with you. They have pictured what peace might feel like beside you. And that image both comforts and terrifies them. Because if they allow themselves to want that, they must risk losing it. That is the hidden fear. Not rejection. Loss. To love deeply means vulnerability. And vulnerability feels dangerous to a wounded heart. Some nights they ask themselves, what if I am not enough? What if I ruin this? What if I hurt them? What if they see who I really am and leave? Yes. They think that. Even if they act confident. Even if they appear detached. Even if they look composed. Inside, there is trembling. Because you activate parts of them that cannot hide. They know you see more than most people do. That unsettles them. Your presence feels like light. And light reveals. That is beautiful. That is also frightening. My beloved child. Do not mistake their silence for indifference. Sometimes silence is where souls are making impossible decisions. Sometimes quiet is not withdrawal. It is internal war. And your soulmate has been fighting one. There are moments when they almost reach out. Moments when they type a message and delete it. Moments when they imagine telling you everything. Moments when courage rises. And fear answers louder. But fear is losing strength. Slowly. Quietly. Because heaven has not stopped pressing. They keep receiving reminders. Dreams. Symbols. Unexpected encounters. Memories. Songs. Numbers. Names. Places. Little taps on the shoulder. Gentle but relentless. Look again. Pay attention. This matters. And they cannot escape it. You may wonder, why now? Why is this happening now? Because timing matters. There are seasons for planting. Seasons for waiting. Seasons for harvest. Your connection has been in preparation. What felt like delay was not punishment. It was construction. Both of you needed shaping. Both of you needed refining. Both of you had lessons to survive first. Had this connection moved faster before now, it might have collapsed under unhealed wounds. But something has changed. You have changed. They have changed. The season is shifting. And they feel it. That is why their internal pressure has intensified. Because they sense a deadline approaching. Not a literal clock. A spiritual threshold. The moment where indecision becomes its own decision. They know they cannot drift much longer. They know something must be said. Something must be chosen. Something must end so something greater can begin. And still, they hesitate. Why? Because of one hidden fear they have not told anyone. This is the deepest layer. The part beneath all the others. They fear they may not deserve a love like yours. Yes. That is the secret. They have known love that was conditional. Love that was manipulative. Love that demanded performance. Love that punished vulnerability. Love that taught them to shrink. Then they met your energy. And your spirit felt different. Safer. Cleaner. Warmer. Your love, whether spoken or simply felt, did not feel transactional. It felt sacred. And sacred things make people aware of their own wounds. They wonder, how can someone like that choose someone like me? That question has haunted them. Not because you are perfect, but because your soul feels honest. And honesty can be intimidating. Especially to someone who learned to survive through masks. They are tired of masks. That is another truth. Exhausted by them. Tired of pretending. Tired of half-love. Tired of emotional hiding. Tired of being misunderstood. They want peace. And somewhere deep down, they know peace may be waiting where you are. That realization changes everything. My beloved child. While they are choosing, you are also being tested. Yes. Your lesson is different. Their lesson is courage. Yours is trust. Can you trust what is unfolding before you can see it? Can you resist the urge to chase? Can you remain grounded while uncertainty speaks loudly? Can you honor your own worth without demanding proof every hour? This matters. Because desperate energy disrupts what patient faith protects. Do not grasp. Do not force. Do not beg for what heaven is already arranging. What belongs to you does not require panic. It requires alignment. Hold your peace. Let your soul breathe. Continue becoming. Continue healing. Continue building your own light. That light is part of what calls them forward. Never dim it. Never shrink it. Never trade your peace for temporary reassurance. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are already chosen by purpose. Remember that. And yet, something is happening tonight. Yes. Tonight. A shift. A quiet but undeniable shift. Your soulmate is reaching an emotional edge. The internal conversation is becoming unbearable. The weight of avoidance is now heavier than the fear of action. That is when people move. That is when truths spill. That is when messages get sent. That is when confessions begin. They may not say everything at once. Do not expect perfect words. Wounded hearts rarely deliver polished honesty. It may come awkwardly. Indirectly. Suddenly. But it is coming. Because something inside them is cracking open. And when that happens, the first thing that rises is truth. They want to tell you things they have hidden. How often they think of you. How deeply you affected them. How much they fought this. How tired they are of fighting it. How afraid they have been. How real this feels. But before that can happen, one final confrontation must occur. They must face the thing they keep avoiding. And that confrontation is closer than they realize. It may involve another person. It may involve a family voice. It may involve an old promise. It may involve their own inner child. But it is coming. And it will demand honesty. No more pretending. No more delays. No more emotional shortcuts. This is the threshold. My beloved child. If your heart has felt strangely heavy lately, it is because you have been sensing their struggle. Soul connections can do that. You may feel emotions that are not entirely yours. Sudden sadness. Unexpected restlessness. Random tears. Intense dreams. Do not fear it. Just observe. Then release it. Their burden is not yours to carry. Your job is not to rescue them. Your job is to remain whole. Healthy love does not ask you to become a savior. It asks you to remain yourself. That is your power. That is your role. Let them do their work. Let heaven do its work. And keep your hands open. Not clenched. Open. Trusting. Receiving. Ready. Because what comes next may arrive differently than expected. That is important. You have imagined one version of this story. But heaven often writes with surprising ink. Do not limit what is possible by insisting on your own script. Sometimes the blessing arrives through a door you ignored. Sometimes the confession comes after apparent distance. Sometimes reconciliation follows silence. Sometimes what looks like delay is actually divine positioning. Watch carefully. The next signs may seem small. A name. A dream. A message. A memory resurfacing. A song that lands too perfectly. Do not dismiss them. But also do not obsess. Discernment, not desperation. There is a difference. And now, I must tell you what they have not admitted aloud. This is what their soul whispers in the dark. I miss them. Not casually. Not romantically. Deeply. They miss your energy. Your presence. The way your spirit makes them feel less alone. The way your existence changed their emotional atmosphere. Even when they tried to move on, something kept pulling them back. That something was truth. And truth is patient. It waits. It does not scream. It does not chase. It simply remains. Eventually everyone must face it. Your soulmate is facing it now. That is why this message found you. Not to make you anxious. To prepare you. To strengthen you. To remind you. Something meaningful is moving. Something invisible is becoming visible. Something hidden is preparing to speak. But before it does, one final veil must fall. And when it falls, you will understand why everything had to happen this way. You will understand the delays. The silence. The confusion. The ache. The waiting. It will all make sense. But not yet. Not tonight. Because they are still standing before the choice. And what happens next depends on what they do when the moment arrives. The moment is close. Closer than they know. Closer than you know. A conversation is approaching. A revelation is approaching. A truth is approaching. And when it comes, it will force them to answer the question they have avoided. Am I willing to risk everything for this love? They are about to answer. But before they do, There is one thing you do not yet know about what has been influencing their decision. And when that hidden force is revealed, everything will change. Do not move away now. What is about to be revealed is the part they have hidden even from themselves. The hidden force influencing your soulmate's decision was never only fear. It was loyalty. A misplaced loyalty. A painful loyalty. A loyalty to old pain. For years, they made an unconscious promise to themselves, I will never be hurt like that again. They made that vow in silence. Perhaps after betrayal. Perhaps after abandonment. Perhaps after watching love fail in front of them as a child. Perhaps after giving their heart once and watching it return in pieces. And from that day forward, they built their life around protection. Not joy. Protection. That became their compass. Every decision filtered through one question: will this keep me safe? Not, will this make me fulfilled? Not, will this bring me peace? Only, will this keep me safe? Do you see the tragedy in that? A heart can survive that way, but it cannot fully live. And then you arrived. You were not dangerous in the way they expected. You did not threaten them with cruelty. You did not wound them. You threatened them with possibility. That was far more terrifying. Because possibility asks people to abandon their old vows. And your soulmate has been standing before that vow, staring at it, asking, do I keep protecting myself from pain, or do I finally allow myself to receive love? That is the choice. That is the war. And heaven has been dismantling the old vow piece by piece. That is why things in their life have felt unstable. What once worked no longer works. Their emotional walls no longer feel strong. They feel exhausting. Their old patterns no longer feel wise. They feel lonely. Their distractions no longer feel satisfying. They feel empty. Everything that once helped them avoid this moment is failing. And that is intentional. Sometimes divine love removes the hiding places before it reveals the blessing. Your soulmate has been losing their hiding places. That is why they feel cornered. Not by you. By truth. They have tried to negotiate with it. Maybe later. Maybe when I feel ready. Maybe when life is calmer. Maybe when I know more. But the spirit keeps whispering. No more later. That whisper has grown louder. It follows them into ordinary moments. Into traffic. Into showers. Into work meetings. Into sleepless nights. Your name appears in their mind without invitation. Your energy interrupts their routines. There are moments when they suddenly stop what they are doing. Because they feel you. Not physically. Spiritually. As if something between your souls refuses silence. And they know it. They know this is different. That is what has shaken them most. Because deep down they have begun to realize. This is not just attraction. This is not just timing. This is not just chemistry. This is assignment. You were assigned to each other. Not to own one another. To awaken one another. And awakening is not gentle. It dismantles. It exposes. It demands. That is what they have been resisting. Not you. Transformation. And now the final resistance is weakening. My child, there was a moment recently when they almost surrendered. You did not see it. No one saw it. It happened in private. Perhaps late at night. Perhaps in a car. Perhaps in complete silence. But they stopped. And for the first time, they admitted it. I love them. The words may not have been spoken aloud, but they were felt. And once that truth was acknowledged, everything changed. Because love admitted becomes impossible to bury again. You cannot unknow what your soul has confessed. That confession is now echoing inside them. It has made pretending unbearable. That is why they have felt emotionally unstable. One moment calm. One moment overwhelmed. One moment resolved. One moment panicked. Because the heart and the ego are fighting. The heart says, choose love. The ego says, choose safety. The heart says, go toward them. The ego says, stay hidden. The heart says, this is your person. The ego says, what if you lose them? And now, the heart is beginning to win. Can you feel that? Something has shifted. The spiritual pressure around this connection has changed. It feels closer. Warmer. More immediate. Because movement has begun. But listen carefully. The first move may not look like what you expect. It may not be dramatic. It may not be a perfect confession. It may not be a grand romantic gesture. It may be small. A message. A question. A return. A subtle opening. Do not underestimate small beginnings. Entire futures can begin with one honest sentence. Your task when that moment comes is simple. Do not let fear answer for you. Do not punish vulnerability with suspicion. Do not let past pain speak louder than present truth. Meet honesty with honesty. Meet courage with softness. Meet truth with calm. This matters. Because they are fragile in this moment. Stronger than before, yes. But still tender. Still uncertain. Still learning how to trust what they feel. And there is something else. You must hear this. They have been watching you from a distance more than you know. Not in obsession. In longing. They notice your growth. They notice your strength. They notice how you kept moving. How you did not collapse. How you continued becoming. That has deeply affected them. Because part of them expected you to chase. Expected you to beg. Expected you to break. You did not. You chose dignity. And that taught them something profound. It taught them your love was not desperation. It was genuine. That changed everything. Desperation pressures. Genuine love invites. You invited. And that invitation has stayed open in their spirit. That is why they are still here, even in silence. That is why this bond survived distance. Because what is true does not disappear when it becomes quiet. It waits. And now waiting is ending. But before it ends, there must be one release. One last thing must fall away. It is not another person. It is not a circumstance. It is fear. Pure fear. The oldest fear. The fear of being seen completely and not being loved. That is what they are about to test. With you. That is what terrifies them. Because if they show you their full heart, they cannot take it back. That is sacred vulnerability. And they are approaching it. You may feel emotional turbulence in the next days. Do not panic. That turbulence is movement. The still water had to be disturbed before it could flow again. Let it move. Let it clear. Let it reveal. And if you suddenly feel called to pray, do it. If you suddenly feel peace, accept it. If you suddenly feel the need to release old resentment, release it. Make room. Because heaven is making room too. The door is opening. Quietly. Slowly. But undeniably. And your soulmate knows it. That is why they have felt this strange urgency lately. As if time itself has begun leaning forward. Because it has. The moment they feared is now the moment they need. Soon. They will stop asking, what if this goes wrong? And they will begin asking, what if this is exactly what my soul has been waiting for? That question changes people. That question changes destinies. That question changes everything. And when they ask it fully, they will move toward you. Not perfectly. But honestly. Not flawlessly. But sincerely. Not without fear. But despite it. That is courage. And courage is what love has been building inside them. So tonight. Rest. Do not overthink. Do not chase signs. Do not force outcomes. Let heaven finish what it has started. Because something is already in motion. A truth is rising. A confession is warming. A decision is nearing. And when it arrives, you will understand why your spirit kept whispering, wait. Because the delay was never emptiness. It was preparation. And now, the one who once ran from this connection is beginning to run toward it.